Are you in the diaspora wondering how to teach Luganda to your kids, or maybe any other language that's not English? Are you even in Uganda and you want to teach them? Well, maybe you can get a few tips from me. My name is Cissy and I'm a mom of 2. My eldest is 4 years old and my second is about 19 months. And they both understand Luganda. They can speak it as well. It's not perfect, but I feel like we've come such a long way and we're doing such a good job, especially that it's only been about 2 years since we started doing this. Yes, I'm going to share all my tips. Number 1, I feel like I do need to explain. My name is Cissy Atwine, so therefore I am not a Uganda, but my husband is. And so that's why I decided, let's first try and teach them Luganda. And then after that, maybe we can consider Runyankole or even Samia, because I am also Samia as well. So I feel like we've had really good progress. I wish I could insert videos of them speaking Luganda, but unfortunately, when you try and record them, then they start speaking English only. But if you want to see, then do follow me on Instagram. In the week that I release this video, I will be sharing as many clips as I can on my stories, and so you can have a look and be inspired even further. The first tip is really to figure out what is your why. What is the reason that you want to be teaching them Luganda, for example? Because it's not going to be easy, especially if you have been doing it from birth. And also if you don't even think in the language like me. So my why all happened about, I think, nearly 2 years ago, which is when George Floyd died. And then there was this whole entire Black Lives Matter movement. So I live in the UK, and so that's when I was confronted with my own blackness and realized that actually I'm a Ugandan, and well, I'm a black person now. I always knew I was a Ugandan. And then like identity, and I started reading up about like identity for kids, and especially who've grown up as second generation immigrants. And I realized that there's a high risk of identity crisis. There's a risk of that for everyone, but it's much higher for second generation immigrant, because they have a tendency to like kind of be confused, because at home maybe you eat Ugandan food. Sometimes even the parents speaking like Luganda, Runyankole to each other, but like not to the kids. So at home maybe you feel like you're Ugandan, and then when you go out in the community you feel like you're British, but actually the community sees you as differently. So anyways, I decided that I think now I do need to try and instill the identity of being a Ugandan to my kids, or like as an option, and they can see if they like it, and if they don't, they can always change. But as long as you've understood the language, you can speak the language, you can eat the food, it's going to help you a lot more. The first tip, and it's like an obvious one, is to speak Luganda to the kids, or speak to your kids in the language that you want them to learn. It's really, really difficult, and the hardest bit is starting. But when you start, it's going to be really awkward in the beginning, but with time you're going to get used to it. So for me, basically what I did, I just woke up and I just pretended that my Gabi, who at the time was 2 years old, understood Luganda. I just started telling her Jangu, Tudiemele, this and that. And then like with time, she started responding as well. And then also another tip is to be speaking to them Luganda or whatever language, even if they respond in English. So they obviously, like my kids, like they clearly think in English, so it doesn't come naturally to them, or it doesn't come as easily to them. But with time, and it's like I'm the one who's more serious about this issue. So at some point, my husband is now on board as well, but initially he wasn't really so much into that. So it's like there was a point where my daughter seemed to believe that I only knew Luganda and my husband knew English. And so when my husband would say something in English, she would sort of translate it for me. Or when she's speaking to me, she speaks to me in Luganda. Or when she's speaking to him, she speaks to him in English. It's still like that in that she speaks now Luganda to both of us, but she tends to do more of the English with him, which I think is so cool. So basically just keep insisting, and eventually they will respond, they will say something. My next tip is to start with simple things. Start with things like numbers, counting, songs, alphabet. Like there's an alphabet in Luganda, it's called Walifuyo Luganda. Very close to like English alphabet. But yeah, I think start with simple things. It's really helpful. And I started by counting. I started counting Emubi Disatunya, like that. And so she can do all that now. And then the next tip is if your child uses screens, which if they don't, please do share in the comments below. How are you doing it? If they use screens, then there's a channel I highly recommend called Mukwano Gwabato that has nursery rhymes like Mbatento, Baba Black Sheep in Luganda, Nabubi, which is it's the spider one, Insi Spider in Luganda. We love that channel, we're always watching it. And so they love the songs. My 2-year-old initially did not love them actually. She would say no, 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 but I kept putting them by force as well. And so now she loves them. She knows all the little songs. That really helps. There's also a channel called Nkoza and Nancha, and also an app called Nkoza and Nancha, which I highly recommend. So it has like little games, like matching sounds and like pictures. So my daughter can do all those games like that at her age level, obviously. So for instance, she can't read yet, but she can see pictures and hear the sound and can match them and know that this is a chikopo, jaga, or moala, those kind of things. I will link that in the description below. Do get that app because I Nancha, and like do it like a fun game. And then it also has the little nursery rhyme songs from Mukwano gwabato as well, which is really great. Diana Luanga, thank you. I'm a big fan. There's another channel as well called Tales from Uganda, where I have featured as well, telling them one of my favorite tales from Uganda, which is Nsangi. So I like that to get ideas of like what stories to tell them. So for story time, I do tell them stories in Luganda. So even the books that we have, most of them are English books. But what I do is that I translate everything. So I turn the page and I tell the whole story in Luganda. So at the moment they can't read yet. So I don't know what's going to happen when she starts reading. I guess I'll just explain what's going on. But I translate the entire story in Luganda, every page that we're going with. And I've also gotten books in Luganda as well when I went back to Uganda, and also before I had gone, I'd sent a friend to help me bring them. So there's lots of books that actually teach you how to speak Luganda and how to read Luganda. And basically that's why I chose Luganda, because there's so many more resources than other languages like Unyankole, which weren't really there. Although I have seen a book that I'm getting as soon as possible called Boni and Ente by I think, by a lady called Carol Binauganda, which has some Unyankole in it. And so I think if you can get as many books as possible and incorporate them as well, I'll link any books that I have in the description below, so you can go and have a look as well. Tales from Uganda also has a book that I have, which I will link below, and it's really good for learning Luganda. It has like simple things, like not simple and complicated, everything you can think of: days, months, parts of the body, parts of the house, members of the family, cousins, sisters, brothers, uncles, in-laws, like all those terms that it's really good for learning, especially if your Luganda isn't even that great as well. The next thing is to expose them to Luganda or other languages as much as possible. So for us, we do push on NTV Uganda, NTV Akawungezi specifically, all the time. The problem with it is that a lot of it is not child appropriate, super depressing, but I like it because I like to know what's happening in Uganda, but also they're not watching. So they don't sit down and start watching NTV Akawungezi. But like they know it's my time to watch NTV Uganda, and then on NTV Uganda they see that those people out there watching, like, first of all, look like them, like the whole other world with black people, which is where we're from, and then also they start hearing Luganda like elsewhere than from me and my husband. And then also I watch Binauganda, on YouTube. It's a channel called Trust Films. I am a fan of that channel. I started Binauganda, like Ntunusi, Kaliamagwa. Can't believe it. I speak more Luganda now in the diaspora than I ever did back home. Yeah, so I started watching those things in my maternity leave because I didn't have much going on. And then also they're pretty interesting, although after a time the storyline gets monotonous because it's usually like the same thing. But then you learn lots of Luganda, although you end up learning a lot of like abuses, which isn't great. But yeah, it's like also for me and my kids to know that there's like other things out there. They can see Luganda, they can see like there's other people who look like them. I love it really. And my last tip is to start as early as possible, ideally from birth, because it makes such a big difference. So my 19-month-old, we started speaking to her in Luganda from birth, and she knows so much Luganda. Even her first words were like Nyindo. She totally understands. Like you can tell her again Ogaleo Luji, she'll go and close the door. She does. She totally understands Luganda, and she can also speak Luganda. Like some of the words she can speak Luganda. She can say nyama and koko, like different things. It's so cute. And then she also speaks English as well. But her Luganda has made so much more progress, I would say, at her age level than the 4-year-old, because the 4-year-old was speaking Luganda first. Because by the time a child is age 1, they can know at least 70 words, and also they're able to differentiate languages. They can know that this is another language and it's another language. So even though they're not talking, they're learning. So start as early as possible. But also don't be discouraged if your child is much older already, because you can always learn a language at any point. although the older they get, then it becomes more up to them. You can't be forcing like a much bigger child to learn a language that they don't want to. But what I've noticed though is that a lot of times when kids become like pre-teen age, puberty, adolescence, around that period, and they're going through identity, like not confusion, but like figuring out different identities, they tend to get more interested in these languages. Like I know a little girl who, she's now, I think she's 10 or 11, and now she wants to know Luganda. I told her mom to get an app. She got the app, and apparently she's interested in trying to learn those because of nature things. And also, you can always learn a language at any age. So when they're older, they can always learn it if they want to. But if you want to help them up along, I hope my tips have been helpful. If you are in Uganda, then it's even easier really, because somehow you're going to learn somehow. Because me growing up, we didn't speak Luganda or Nyankole or even Samia that much in the home, like with my parents, no. With the maids, yes, because usually we had a maid, and like we ended up speaking whatever language the maid would speak, because you kind of spend more time with a maid. So initially we were speaking only Luganda. My parents were like, Wananga, what's going on? So they started bringing only maids from their tribes. So we ended up learning Samia and also Nyankole from like the maids. And then also generally you learn in the environment. So if you're in Uganda, it's not really that difficult. Eventually the kids will learn. It's much easier. If you're in the diaspora, then it's not. So therefore, it is your responsibility to try and be enforcing it if you want to, as soon as possible. The next thing that you can do, which a friend of mine has done, is to get a Luganda tutor to teach your kids via Zoom. I think this is for like school age going children. Then they're able to like, and it's easier for, it's like a real like lesson. It's like a serious thing. So definitely I'm also going to be considering this when my own children are like old enough to be understanding and sitting down to concentrate, because it's like how you'd pay for like another extra activity or pay for like French class, Spanish class, which I would never. I would rather pay for Luganda class. So if you can do that as well, do consider it. My friend who did this is called Carol, who I will link her channel below, because she's a YouTuber as well, and she usually shares how her kids are learning Luganda on her Instagram as well. So go and follow her, because her kids are amazing and their Luganda is perfect. So yeah, go and be inspired and see that there's other people out there in the diaspora who are doing this, and so you can too as well. If you are in the diaspora and you're wondering how to talk to your kids about racism, because this also is an issue, then watch this video next where I explained all my tips that I'm learning. Thank you.